ritual takes place here.
Can you, let me get over here so you can be heard on my microphone.
We've kind of centrally located the hood so if it were to rain, the water would go down to the hood and catch, and because the hood is kind of curved, it will catch some of the water rather than just let it spill out, and so we cinch the cord up a little bit so we can get to it.
Okay.
If it were to rain a lot, it'd probably be more of a hindrance than a help. But.
Okay. And you can't really see without coming over and looking at it, but the way they have cinched this up, it does create a bowl in there with the hood. And so that's where they're saying is capturing the water. That's actually a very good technique. One of the things you do need to worry about, obviously, is good drinking water. Rainwater may not be perfectly pure, but it's better than what you're going to pull out of a stream. Okay? And so that gives you a source of water right there. It's very helpful if you have something else you can transfer the water into if it does start raining, or be able to tighten that up very quickly. Negatives on this particular one, obviously, you're not a lot of protection from wind coming from the sides, but it does give you shade. It maximizes the space underneath there for two people. It's high enough you can move around pretty easily under there. So pros and cons there. Okay. If you're getting a lot of rain, you'd probably want to slip out for a minute and tie it up so it stops coming in once you collect the water you need. Okay. And the side note there, because they have designed it scooped down, which I think is where Larry Sensei was going, even once you seal that up, you're going to want to do something to get this up higher so it drains away. Just for example, let's take this one. I think it'll be easiest to reset. Everybody's thinking in terms of squares here. Now, a problem I have is my height, my length. Okay? The ponchos are just barely long enough to cover my length, going end to end or side to side. But which direction are they longest?
Corner to corner. Diagonal.
Corner to corner. Okay. Ponchos, fairly short side by side, longer end to end. We've had two people already speak up. They are longest corner to corner or diagonal. Okay? My favorite setup of a poncho is, instead of using it as a square, pull this off for now, is set it up in this kind of angle. Okay? And you have to secure that in there. You're probably going to have to want to tie it or something up there to catch it good. But what this does, just quickly here for example, it's holding itself good, is it now gives you that much direction in there lengthwise. Okay? And if this was tied down to the point where these were really down close to the ground, you have two sides here that create a wing to direct the wind up over you. The wind falls the rain drains very cleanly away from you. Okay? Let's set that up. What I'm going to do first of all, I'm just going to wind these up a little bit instead of cutting his cord. I'm going to wind these up like this.
Maybe arm and a half thing?
That's fine. Don't cut it. We'll just tie it on the pole and I'll latch it up here. It's one of the reasons I like this device. It saves me cutting a lot of cord. Okay, let's put the back down first. Now pull that more. You want that at an angle coming this direction more than straight out. Same there, more that direction. Not quite that far. You're gonna tear it. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Now what you have here, you good, Sensei? What we have here is a pretty simple structure. Just 4 stakes, one pole holding it up. Extreme protection at a low profile for wind coming from anywhere in this direction. Compare the height of this and the wind deflection to the first one we looked at. Remember I said that was a little higher than I would like to see it? If you have 2 places you can tie them off, that's nice. But that first example left both sides open. You are very protected on this whole back radius with this setup. Again, out in the wild, you might want to roll some dirt up over that. Even cut a little ditch inside there for runoff. Gives you a lot of space inside, a lot of length. You can slip back in here and be completely covered. There's also space beside you and around you to put your gear in here. Okay, if you're all by yourself, plenty of space to protect your gear. And I have a good view out of here, okay? So this maximizes the length and resource of your poncho. It's one of my favorite setups. Very quick, very easy. Q approved. I have a nylon piece, sill net that I use with my motorcycle. Instead of carrying a pole, strap this end up to the motorcycle and just strap those corners down, set in there very nicely. Now, there's all kinds of variations you can do with this flap out here. If you have it down, that will help deflect some of the wind coming off there so it doesn't blow in. But that's the basic idea of this. Okay? Easy in and out, a lot of protection, low profile, less likely to get knocked down by the wind. Okay? So of all the designs I've seen, I feel this one maximizes most of the space underneath if you really need the protection around you. Yeah. In our culture, it's typical to have a housewarming gift in the open house. And here, of course, we have the Defender ready to go. Sensei has attached it tightly up here to the cord. So you know, remember when I was in there, my face was out here? It was very easy to grab that on the way out and go. Okay? So it's geared up, ready to go. You can do the same with knife, anything else hanging there. Keep your weapons at hand if you're out someplace. You never know what's going to be coming your way. Okay? Simple little setup. All right. Let's talk about other uses of ponchos. We've talked about the shelter. In fact, let's talk about some advantage of this shelter. At our test, we had a large tent that provided a lot of protection. Thank you. A lot of protection and had space for all of us in there. My real concern with that tent was, God, it took forever to set up. It took forever to set up. And there's that Murphy Law thing that says things are going to go wrong at the worst times. And it seems of all the times I've been out camping and hiking, I've seldom had bad weather come up, very seldom after the fact. But I can't tell you how frequently I've had to set up my tent and shelter in very hard wind or in rain. And you want some kind of shelter that you can get up quickly, easily when you're in that kind of situation. You had less than 10 minutes to set these up without any planning. Okay? You can do this very quickly, very easily. Okay?
Sensei, what would you do with two ponchos? Is that in your mix today at all?
Absolutely. I have this tarp here.
I feel like a stunt man.
You're a good stunt man.
Straight man. That's right.
Now, I'm going to tell you there's a lot of information out online and in books about tarp shelters. There's a whole cult out there, if you want to use that term, of people who are into using tarps for tents and shelters. Do a little searching online, which is real easy to do, on tarp shelters. Didn't take long to find what I think is probably the best text I've ever seen on it. 61 pages of nothing but designs of tarp shelters, using different size tarps, multiple tarps, whatever. Okay? Now, any of the designs you see here can be done with multiple, can be made with tarps. Obviously, that's all it is. As a matter of fact, I would tend to get a tarp, a small tarp, and practice with that a lot because that'll put less strain on your core equipment so it's still good and intact, ready to go when you need to use it. Oh, yes, we would. Now, if you want to use a larger shelter, and you can make larger shelters with ponchos. I'll come back to that item there. Okay. You make larger items with the ponchos by simply tying them together. What's important when you're tying your ponchos together to make a larger shelter is think in terms of shingles. And the overlap. So the one that is higher laps over top of the lower one so water will run off. I've seen cases where people have worked with multiple tarps tarps and multiple ponchos to make bigger shelters, but didn't allow for that. And all of a sudden the rain's just running in. Made for good shade, but that's it. Okay, we've been talking shelter. What else can we use these ugly things for? Sensei mentioned one a moment ago.
No,
Changing room.
on the bottom.
Remember on a test somebody used one as a changing room? All right.
On the bottom, though.
On the bottom, the ground cover. We covered how to protect you from what's up above, but what about the damp ground? These things do make effective ground cover. Just lay them down inside either before or after you get that put together. Okay? So very effective there. Yes, it can. Some variations on shelters I've seen laid out. If you're in some place where it's soft dirt or sand, dig out the dirt or sand there, make a hole for you, and stretch the tarp out flat over top. Okay? That way there's no visible clue of you out there. Okay? That's kind of a nice setup. So let's come back on the shelter a minute. Let's stay with the ponchos for a moment, then I'm going to come back to camouflage too. These can be used as camouflage, obviously, especially if you have a camouflage poncho. But even just the coloring of them helps quite a bit. Okay? Barney was talking about on TV shows, he's seeing people using shrub or leaves, natural, whatever cushion they can find, and using that as cushion and insulation. Absolutely. One of the things I highly recommend in any emergency kits you have are the large 33-gallon trash bags. Okay? You obviously can wrap them up in here too.
Wasn't that on our list?
It was on our list. Okay? I think we had some discussion about using it to pick up trash and even cutting holes in it and using it as emergency rain gear. But you will find that in the wild, those make some of the best comforters and mattresses. Stuff them with the dead leaves, with the little plant stuff you find. You have a mattress underneath, stuff one to pull over top of you, that becomes your comforter. Okay? That's for luxury camping out in the wild. The other benefit of that versus just burrowing into a pile of leaves is it kind of contains the bugs and keeps some of those leaves from punching into you and getting you all itchy in the middle of the night, which makes you uncomfortable. So the real tough guys will just bury themselves in the leaves. I say use the trash bags and make yourself a luxury camper. Okay?
Great to block wind and stuff too, because you can actually angle them in there.
You can cushion them in, push them in. Even where you had the openings around the sides here, you could smash those in against there to keep that wind blocked out. Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the vapor layer. The other thing is what insulates you is the trapped air. Okay? So you don't want the paper smashed too tight. You want it looped in there to keep the air layer in there. And that's why the leaves and such work. They're trapping the air in. Larry Sensei was speaking in houses. They used to actually use newspaper as insulation. Punch that in the walls. It traps the air. Obviously, air was trapped in those walls before, but it keeps drafts from going through it. Keeps the air from circulating through it. Just traps it there to hold the warmth. What else can we use a poncho for? Okay. One thing, we all carry a lot of gear, and we try to find places to stuff all of our gear. There's nothing wrong with wrapping gear in your poncho. Okay? Just throw the gear you need in there and wrap it up. Tie some cord around the outer edge, and you have a good gear wrap ready to go. You can throw it over your shoulder. Here's a pack, here's a kit I keep together all the time. I usually keep this in my car. We'll open this up in a few minutes so you can see the multiple uses of it. It's basically a poncho with everything else wrapped up in. 550 cord on slip knots, ties right in there. I flip it over my shoulder, carry it very light, easy, anywhere I want to go. Okay? It's always ready, doesn't take up much space. You'll see all the flexibility of this in a couple minutes. You have most of this material already. There's a few items on here I'm going to recommend you get to complete your kit. All right, so they make good gear wraps, and a little 550 cord is all you need to carry it. Okay? Again, they're just slip knots, so they tighten right down on there. So gear wraps is one. You had another comment. Drags. Drags. If you have to carry stuff, or a person, you can just stretch this out, put what you need to carry for firewood, anything you've captured, anything you have. It makes it easier to drag. You can always tie your cord onto here to make some kind of harness to pull with also. If you have a person that's injured, you can tie the sides together. If you want to make a litter and you have enough sticks, you can always tie them around in a manner that you can create a litter.
Okay, so we're back on.
Okay, to use a poncho as a litter, just lay it out flat, get your sticks that you're going to carry with, put them in the thirds. Flip them over so they overlap. Get the person or the gear or whatever you're transporting, lay down on here. The friction will keep that together. Do we have a volunteer? Okay, lay down flat. So we have, you want the weight distributed across here, so you're maximizing the friction between these layers of cloth. Okay. Okay, now we'll pick up gently. Okay, and you see it's holding quite well, so we can transport her over whatever kind of terrain we have to very easily, very quickly there. Okay, if you're by yourself, obviously you can drag them this way, or if you don't have the poles, it's going to be a rough ride for them, not so bad on sand or snow, but just wrap them up there again and drag them. So it does create an effective drag to get, if you have to get somebody out and you can't carry them, this is a way to get them through. Okay. When you are using this as a drag, as you're traveling, periodically you want to move it around, reverse it halfway through the trip so that the pressure is on a different place. Otherwise you're going to wear a hole in one spot and it will cease to be functional. Okay, so rotate it that way. We had a question about hammocks. Yes, you can. In fact, yes, you can use this as a hammock. But to demonstrate that, because I've already got this set up, you use your net as a hammock also. This will be easier just to demonstrate because you got two trees down there. It's already wrapped. Let me show you what I've set up here. This is simply our net. I laid it out diagonally, okay, and to give it extra strength, I ran the 550 cord through it, weaving up and down through here to keep it much more even, okay. I don't think that's necessary, but I like to err on the side of having the, caught me the lugs, but I like to err on the side of a little extra protection there. And when we hang this up, I actually left the wings out here, left the corners unwoven, so I can wrap myself over. You can use this, you can put vegetation in the side to create some camouflage there also. Before we hang this up though, I want to mention you set up your poncho the same way, create the hammock. It won't give you as much flex as this, so it might not be as comfortable. But what I like to be able to do then is use one as the hammock and the other as a cover. If it's likely to get wet, it's nice to have the poncho stretched above you, just a straight V from tree to tree. Okay. Matter of fact, let's just take this. We're going to erect that, but very quickly, just to show. Take this in the middle. Hold that in the middle, just up above your head there. No, this one. That corner right there. You can put string out and the cord across, so you'd have the hammock underneath, and then you have the cover above you with cord going out this way. It creates a very nice, completely off the ground cover. Not going to protect you from the wind, but it's going to protect you from water coming down. Gives you a lot of air flowing around you. That's very nice. You can do it as diagonally. I like, you typically see this set up this way because that way these ends come down and give you maximum protection from the sides. If you set up diagonal, the ends are not going to have a lot of protection there. Okay? And we can pull some, we'll take this gear over and hook it up on a tree and show how that sets up. Okay.
We'll come this way, walk through me.
The way he wants you to take the whole thing over there. The way I had preset this, I actually have the loop. It's one continuous piece of 550 cord going woven in and out. So what they've done, they've taken where the loop is, looped it around the tree, so there's not another knot to deal with over there. And then taking this knot over here, this cord over here, and why don't we drop that down? Okay, that'll be, this will stretch. I want to make sure that people can get into it. Okay. Okay. Tying the other end, like I said, we had this end over here looped already, so it's just a simple manner of looping it on, very field expedient, very quick. The end that you're going to have to tie onto the tree. Make a simple loop. Pull it up through. And you have a loop. Now, I'm going to take the rest of the cord. I'm going to wrap it up here. Pull it back through that loop. Okay. So we've come around there. We've maximized the hook here. going to run this cord through this loop we made. You can see just the friction of the bark itself is holding it up, but won't hold any weight. It makes it a little easier to work with. By looping through that, if it was down low, I can tighten this up very quickly just by pulling this, okay? At that point, we can simply take this, pull a couple half hitches around there. The friction of the cord itself should keep everything in place. Now we have our hammock up. Before we put up the cover, I'm going to take off my gear so I can sit in it without getting snagged. I was in this last weekend, so I know it holds. You can see how much it stretches. It does stretch.
I'm like almost in the ground.
Okay. There you go. There you go. Okay. And once you get used to hammocks, you would probably be up a little further. And as I said, we have these flaps here that could be pulled up over. We could take a poncho and line the back of it so when it folds up over, it actually keeps you protected very closely there. That's having it set up much like that last tent was with the poncho. Let's just hold this underneath her for the time being to show that. Let me get the opposite corner. If the poncho was in fact strapped onto the netting, this part here could very easily just flip up over her then to provide some protection on both sides. Okay? That is a very expedient pack to carry where you have it already hooked together. Just strap it up and ready to go. Okay? Over this end, right. Now we had a lot of stretch in there. What I'm going to do to take that out, you're going to hook that? Okay, that makes it easier. I'm going to tie a knot over here with this cord, pull it up through, take up a whole lot of that slack right away. And very similar to what we did on the other end, pull some half hitches around there to keep that tension in there, keep the friction on.
Every 3 years, an ancient ritual takes place here.